I have a question. Did you know that the lifestyle choices that you make every day help to create the environment in which your cells have to live every single day? Now just think about that for a moment. The food we eat, how much we move, how well we sleep, the habits we repeat day after day, they don't just affect how we look or even how we feel. They help to shape the environment in which our cells have to function. Now, when that environment supports them, our cells are better able to do the remarkable work they were designed to do. But the question is, what happens when that environment begins to work against them? What happens when our cells begin to struggle? Hello friend, welcome to the Plant-Powered Life, where we make nutrition simple, practical and evidence-informed, helping men and women over 40 to build better health through whole food, plant-based, oil-free living. I'm Norma Elaine, a qualified lecturer, lifelong learner and passionate advocate for whole food, plant-powered living. Now, over the past few days, we've spent a lot of time here on the Plant-Powered Life talking about nourishing our bodies well. We've spoken about adding more nourishing plant foods, we've spoken about fiber, and we've also spoken about gut health. Now, we've been adding, building and creating healthier choices through our Plant-Powered Health Challenge over the past 3 days. How did you get on? Please do let me know in the comments below. But today, however, I would like us to go a little deeper. I mean, ultimately, who or what are we nourishing when nourishing our cells? So here's the question I would really like us to think about today. What happens when those cells are no longer functioning as efficiently as they should? Because this is where our conversation about food begins to become a conversation about metabolic health. And if you've been following this journey with me, you know that I don't just want us simply to think about food in terms of weight. I want us to think about our overall health. I want us to understand what is happening inside our bodies, because when we understand the why, those healthier choices begin to make so much more sense. So let's go back to our cells, those trillions of cells which make up our body: muscle cells, nerve cells, liver cells, skin cells, and so many more. These cells need nutrients and energy to carry out their work. Now, one of the body's most important energy sources is glucose. Now remember that word, glucose. Now, after we eat carbohydrate-containing foods, digestion breaks many of those carbohydrates down into glucose, which enters into the bloodstream. But you see, glucose circulating in your blood is not the end of the story. You see, for many cells, particularly your muscle cells, the body uses a remarkable signaling system involving a hormone called insulin. Now think of insulin as a signal which is produced by the pancreas. Now when blood glucose rises after a meal, insulin helps signal certain cells to take up glucose from the bloodstream. Now here's something really important. Insulin doesn't actually go inside the cell. Instead, it communicates with receptors on the cell surface. Now that begins a chain of signals within the cell that helps glucose to enter. Now when that system is working well, your body can manage glucose efficiently. But what happens when that signal isn't being heard properly? That's where our story begins to change, when cells begin to struggle. Imagine someone knocking at your front door. The person is outside. Now, they don't need to come through the wall, do they? They simply need the door opening system to respond. In a similar way, insulin sends its message from outside the cell. But sometimes the cell becomes less responsive to that message. Insulin is there, glucose is there, but the response isn't working as efficiently as it should. So the body now has to work harder to manage that glucose. And initially, the pancreas may compensate by producing more insulin. Just think about that for a moment. Someone can have blood glucose that still appears reasonably controlled, while their body is already having to produce extra insulin to achieve it. So what's actually interfering with that signal? Something may already be changing beneath the surface. So here's the question that I really would like us to explore. Why would a cell stop responding properly to insulin? There are many causes. Perhaps it's genetics, physical activity, body fat distribution, sleep, and other factors can all play a part. But there is one mechanism that is particularly important for the journey we're about to take. And that is fat accumulation in places where it shouldn't be. When excess fatty acids and certain fat-derived substances accumulate inside tissues, such as our muscles and liver, they can interfere with the normal insulin signaling process. In other words, the signaling pathway can become disrupted, and when the cell becomes increasingly resistant to insulin signal, we have a condition you've probably heard about many times. Now that is called insulin resistance. But I don't want to rush past those two words, because insulin resistance can be developing for many years before someone discovers that they have a problem. And I tell you this, understanding it may completely change the way you think about metabolic health. This is actually bigger than blood sugar. This is where I want us to change our thinking. We often wait until we hear words such as prediabetes or type 2 diabetes or high blood pressure, high triglycerides, fatty liver or metabolic syndrome. But what if we actually began the conversation much earlier? What if instead of waiting for the diagnosis, we began asking, how well are we supporting the health and function of our cells? That is why this journey isn't simply about eating a salad. And it most certainly isn't about losing weight either. It's about creating an internal environment that supports the body's normal functions. And this is why our 3-day challenge mattered. Now perhaps you can see why I've been encouraging you. I've been encouraging you to add one healthy choice, build better meals and balance, and create habits for a healthy lifestyle. We weren't simply completing a 3-day health challenge. We were actually beginning to practice the everyday behaviors that can support better health over time. Add nourishing whole plant foods, build satisfying balanced meals around whole plant foods, and creating routines that make healthier choices easier to repeat. Small choices repeated consistently, because our lifestyle isn't something separate from our health. Let me say that again. Our lifestyle is not something separate from our health. Our lifestyle helps create the environment in which our cells have to live every single day. So if you didn't know that the lifestyle choices you make every day help to create the environment in which your cells have to live every single day, now you know. So what role can excess fat inside our tissues play in disrupting that process? The process of insulin signaling? Well, my friend, that's exactly where we're going next. In our next video, we're going inside this process, and I'm going to explain insulin resistance in a way that I hope you will never forget. Because once you understand what's happening at the cellular level, you'll begin to understand why so many of the metabolic health problems we hear about are connected. So if you found value in this video, please do subscribe to The Plant Powered Life, because we're going to continue this journey together. Now, just in case you're wondering where to begin making changes, that's exactly why I created the Plant Powered Lifestyle, the ABC method. It takes you through 3 simple principles. Add healthier choices, build better meals, and create healthier habits. Because, my friend, better health doesn't have to begin with changing everything overnight. It can begin with one simple step. I'll see you in the next video, where we're going to answer the question, what is insulin resistance and what is actually happening to our cells? Until then, please remember, nourish your body, support your cells, and keep taking those small steps towards better, in fact, great health. Until next time, God bless. Bye-bye for now.